Good evening, class. My name is Devin Phillips, and for my persuasive speech today, I will be talking about euthanasia in humans. Next slide, please. So medical aided suicide is something that is a hot topic in today's world. There are a lot of people who are for medical aided suicide. There are a lot of people against it. Most people who are against it are your religious types. They think that even though someone is terminally ill or someone is on hospice care, someone is extremely depressed, they don't care. They think that it's still an act against God because the Bible says that suicide is a sin. But you have a lot of people out there who are for it. You have people who think that if you are extremely depressed, if you do have a terminal illness, that there is no return from. If you are on hospice and you're just slowly dying, people think that you have the right to have medical aided suicide. For this remainder of the speech, I will be simply using euthanasia in place of medical aided suicide to make it a little bit more simple to follow. Okay, so next slide, please. I'll go into a brief history of euthanasia just so everyone kind of knows what it's about. So euthanasia is something that in about 1910 here in America was something that people thought, hey, this is something maybe we should have laws for, because America didn't have laws about medical aided suicide, euthanasia back then. Even though it was practiced before the 1900s, there were no laws for it. Back then it got voted down, and then it wasn't really a topic of discussion for several decades. Fast forward to 1990, and you have a doctor by the name of Dr. Jacob Kevorkian. A lot of people know him as Dr. Death. He performed his first humane euthanasia in his van in 1990, and by 1997, he had committed 130 humane euthanasias. He was able to take people who were severely depressed or medically ill, where they were completely terminal and there was no coming back from it. He was able to help those people out by giving them lethal injection that was comfortable and calm enough for them to pass on. He ended up getting sent to prison and sentenced with second-degree murder. Around that same time, you had Oregon, who actually passed a law saying that it was okay to commit euthanasia. It wasn't until another 10, 11 years later where Oregon in 2008 finally decided, you know what, hey, we're going to legalize euthanasia as well. Fast forward another 6 years, you had a big story. This woman named Brittany Maynard, she was recently married, and she found out that she had a terminal illness where she was pretty much going to die slowly over the next few years. She was happy, she was healthy at the time, she had a couple years left to live. She wanted to go out on her own terms. So she decided, I'm gonna go get married, go on the honeymoon, live with my husband happily for a year, then I was gonna take my lethal injection and pass on. This brought about something called the Death with Dignity Law, or AID. And shortly after Brittany Maynard's death, they legalized AID in certain states. That was the Death by Dignity Law. In California, Hawaii, New Jersey, it ended up being about 9 total. You had 9 states who legalized humane euthanasia, and then 10 with the District of Columbia. And that is a brief history on euthanasia. Next slide, please. So the need. What is the need of humane euthanasia? Well, as you can see here, just looking over the last 10 years going from 2013 to 2022, on the left here you have a rate per 100,000 individuals, and in the color here you have the age ranges, less than 15, 15 to 24, 25 to 34, so on and so forth. It's pretty steady from 2013, I'd say, to about 2019, and then there's a uptick of suicides happening 2020, 2021, 2022. The reason I talk about this is because suicide is going to be something that's going to happen with or without laws that say it's okay. The need for humane euthanasia is because why would you want to go out not on your own terms? You want to live with dignity. You don't want to slowly die over a couple years. You don't want to go out, going to the bathroom on yourself, not be able to feed yourself. You want to go out where you can still live your life, be with your family, be with your friends, where you don't have this constant weight of sickness and taking pills and going to chemo, and the need for it is always going to be there. There's always going to be people who commit suicide. So why not have something there for these terminally ill people, for these people who are on chemo and have zero chance of living, people who are severely depressed? Why not let them go out in their own terms in a humane, safe place with a doctor and commit suicide where they could scar other people? They could hurt other people, be it by suicide by gun, suicide by jumping from a car off a building. That scars other people. Why don't you just do it in a office with a doctor? And what's the most important thing at the end of the day to humans? It's their autonomy. It's their freedom. It's their independence. And that's what this country was founded on. It was founded on your independence and your freedom to live the life that you want to live. Why live it on someone else's terms? Next slide, please. Satisfaction. So the satisfaction is kind of a specific plan. What should happen? Well, in an ideal world where we legalize humane euthanasia federally, you have people who are going to their doctor, getting the help they need, going out on their own terms. Why rack up millions of dollars of medical debt that you're not going to be able to afford? And then after you pass on, you have to pass that debt to your family. Why does your family have to foot the bill, fit all these medical debt bills that they didn't even agree to in the first place? If you legalize humane euthanasia, you allow your family to live their life, the rest of your life with you, on everyone's terms, where you can be happy, you can be with your family, going on vacations, not going from hospital to hospital, racking up all these medical bills. There's just no point to it. So in an ideal world, satisfaction going forward would be to not run up those medical bills, live your life, go out on your own terms in a medically safe and humane euthanasia way. Next slide, please. Visualization. The slide pretty much speaks for itself. You have a man who is on hospice, he's with his family, they're happy, still relatively healthy. He gets to spend his life, what's left of it, with his friends and family, being happy. He doesn't have to sit there and go through chemo and slowly die. Why force somebody who has little to no chance to continue to live when they're okay with going out on their own terms? It's freedom. Next slide, please. Action. So what can we do? Well, as I mentioned before, you have all those people who are religious, who think it's morally wrong. Why should those people have the right to tell you how you should live your life? Most people in this country that was founded on freedom of religion, separation of church and state. Why should I have religious people who don't hold the majority tell me how I should live my life when I should be able to call it quits? I don't believe in their religion. Freedom of religion is to believe your beliefs, not put your beliefs on me. So, what you can do is you can, you have the freedom of speech, you have the freedom of press, you have the freedom to get together and demonstrate, right to your senators, right to your local religious leaders. Let them know how you feel. Because at the end of the day, these people, they're going to vote, they're going to lead where they know they'll get votes. And those votes are for something like this, and you need to let that be heard. So I persuade you guys to go out, promote humane euthanasia. Let people know, like, hey, this is what I want. I agree with going out on my own terms. I agree with freedom. I agree that this should be the way that most people feel. And you know what? If you're not okay with humane euthanasia, that's fine. I'm not going to put my beliefs onto you. I'm just going to make it readily available. Because, once again, separation of church and state, freedom, autonomy, the right to do what you want to do is what this country was founded on. We can't hold people back. Next slide, please. So, once again, that concludes my speech on humane euthanasia. Hopefully, you can see how I feel, and hopefully I persuaded you to realize that humane euthanasia is the right way to go, rather than suffering, racking up all these medical bills, leaving behind to your family, where everyone's just going to suffer. For Works Cited, I used a couple different sites. Pros and cons of physician aid in dying. I wrote about Duty to Kill, Duty to Die, Rethinking Euthanasia, controversy in 1906, which is where it started, as I mentioned earlier. Medical aid in dying is not assisted suicide. And lastly, for my graph and the information I used on suicide prevention was brought to us by American Convention for Suicide Prevention by the CDC. Thank you. That's all I got.